Hi, friend. I just wanted to take a minute to invite you to our Lash Biz Babes Experience 2026. This is a one-day all online event happening on May 2nd, and our theme for the year is going all in. We are shaking things up and doing it differently than anyone ever has before. This is going to be an all online event as usual, but it's going to be 100% a curated journey throughout your day as we guide you through the mindset, strategy, and passion needed to go all in on your business to make it your best year in business yet. All lash artists, estheticians, and beauty professionals are invited to join us. There will be guided sessions, interactive workshops, a panel discussion, and big giveaways happening throughout that whole day. And tickets are on sale now for only $199. Payment plans are available. Let's go all in on our businesses for 2026 together. All the details and the link for tickets are down in the show notes below. I would love to have you join us online in May. Welcome to Lash Biz Babes, the podcast for solo beauty business owners who want to build a full clientele and create a business and life that they truly love. My name is Erica. I'm your host. I'm a lash artist turned beauty business coach, lash educator, and social media manager for salons and beauty businesses. I'm so happy that you're here. Let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. Welcome to this week's episode of Lash Biz Babes. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the show. If you've listened before, well, welcome back. Happy to have all of you here today. So we're going to do something a little bit different than we've ever done before on the show, and this is going to be a Q&A episode. So I put a question box on my Instagram page and on the Lash Biz Babes Instagram page and asked you what your questions are about lashes, business, marketing, social media, and we're going to answer your questions on the show today. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those up and start answering them for you. I hope this is something that's a little bit different and fun and answers your questions, gives you some different things to think about, maybe some different perspectives, and hopefully you learn something new today. That's always the goal, right? So these are all going to stay anonymous as to who asked the question. But the first question that we have is Nextdoor app good to attract clientele? Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that I've never personally used Nextdoor app to try and get lash or beauty clients myself. However, I have used Nextdoor app before, and just with a general marketing background and obviously being a social media manager, and that's what I do day in and day out, I can give you my thoughts on using it. And I do believe that yes, Nextdoor app can be a good place to work to attract clientele or to get to know the people in your area, because at the end of the day, I kind of look at it as something that's similar to like a Facebook group, like a local Facebook group. It's a place where there's a lot of people who are in your area and they're potentially looking for recommendations. And really, it's a place that you can network and just get to know people in your area. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to grow your business more than anything else, is when you have those connections in your local area, like on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on any other social media platform. Your goal with that is to reach local people, because that's what's going to pay your bills as a service provider. It doesn't matter if other lash artists or beauty providers or random people or spam accounts are following you. The numbers don't matter as far as like followers and likes and comments and views. What's really going to matter and pay the bills for you is your local following and your ability to connect with them and nurture them, and just let local people know that your business exists and help them find you online so that they can actually book with you. So this is a huge important part of your marketing strategy. And Nextdoor app has literally, probably depending on your area, hundreds or thousands of people in your area on it. So yes, I do believe that this can be a great place to gain visibility in your area. And I'm sure there's people looking for recommendations for beauty providers on there as well. I've definitely seen it in my area before. So yeah, I do believe Nextdoor app can be a good place to get that visibility, and you can always lead that over into like, hey, follow me on Instagram kind of thing. You can build relationships there and kind of lead them into that next step of like continuing to nurture them on your business pages. You obviously don't have to do that, but that is a way that you can grow your local following on your actual social media pages so that they're not just interacting with you that one time, they're able to see your content consistently after that. And that's something that I say with like Facebook groups too. It's always good to leave those clickable links for them because when they're looking for recommendations, or even if they're just asking questions, wondering about services, they're going to get a lot of different responses. Some of these posts literally get hundreds of responses to them. So if you're leaving them a clickable link that is easy for them to go follow, instead of just saying, here's what my Instagram handle is or whatever, that's going to help them click on your stuff a lot easier because they're not going to go manually look up 100 different service providers, right? So if you're giving them those clickable links, they're going to click on those and immediately go check you out because it's just easy to do. So take those few extra seconds to make it a clickable link. I'm not sure if you can do that on Nextdoor app, but if you can, that's definitely the better way to go about it so that it just makes it super easy for them. That's such a huge part of marketing and conversions is making it just as easy and simple and understandable as possible for your potential clients. So with that, Facebook groups, Nextdoor app, leave them those clickable links. And then that way, you're not just having that one interaction with them on that post. Like I was saying earlier, they're able to then go follow you. And then maybe that person goes and follows you or they don't. But then anybody else who's reading that post and sees your comment can now also click on that link and go follow you over there as well. And then that gives them multiple touch points with you, which is a great thing because a lot of people need multiple different touch points with you before they buy from you or they book with you. And so that is a great way to then not just make that connection, but be able to nurture them and grow your local following on your business social media pages. So Nextdoor app gets a thumbs up from me. Lots of local people, lots of opportunities to not just build your business, but to create connections in your area. And I think that that goes a long way, much further than most people realize. Even if you're not directly advertising your business, if you're making these connections with people online in your area, I basically call it you're like building friendships with people in your area online, building these relationships, building these connections, even if they don't really know you that well in person, or they maybe even never met you in person, if they see someone looking for a service that you provide, say lash extensions, even if they haven't met you in person or whatever else, because you've created these connections with them online, they're now going to recommend you because you are the person who becomes top of mind for them when it comes to those services. So don't overlook the connections that you can create on places like Nextdoor app or just local Facebook groups in your area, or even just on Instagram or really any social media platform you can be utilizing this. But especially if we're talking Facebook groups, any groups that already have like a community feel, there's discussions and connection going on. Not just like the yard sale groups, it doesn't work as well in, but like mom groups, I don't know, like hiking groups, what else? There's all kinds of different groups, community groups where there's actual discussions happening. This is where it works really the best, this type of strategy. So, yep, those are my thoughts on Nextdoor app. Okay, next question. What is the best way to help with expense tracking? Now, I have thoughts on this, but the best way and the easiest way is not going to be the cheapest way in my experience. Now, when I was a solo service provider, I used just a simple spreadsheet and it was very easy for me to keep up with because it was just me. I didn't have a ton of transactions as far as purchasing things went. It's not like I had like a bunch of different employees or booth renters or a big building to maintain or anything like that. It was just me in my suite room, had my booth rent, my product order. I usually did like one product order a month, one or two, any other odds and ends that I had to pay for. And then obviously transactions as far as services and making money went. So that was very easy to keep up with just a simple spreadsheet. Now, the trade off on this is that it's taking up your time. So you kind of have to decide with expense tracking and your bookkeeping whether you want to pay for this with your own time or with your money. Because the easiest and I don't want to say necessarily best because you could still do a really good job with it, but definitely the easiest way to do it is just to pay to have somebody do it. But that's not something I've even done up until the last 6 months. That is still a new experience for myself. So I did it all by myself before that. I paid for it with my time. And that's great. And especially when you're solo, you don't have a ton of overhead for the most part, and I feel like it is generally pretty easy to keep up with. You just have to make sure you're doing it consistently. I was doing it once a week. You can just input all of your expenses from the week, and keep track of your income on a POS system, a point of sale system. So say you use Square, you're going to want to put all of your cash transactions into the point of sale system as well so that you can just easily pull a report at the end of the year and it'll have all of your income for the year there in one spot, all added up for you. But as far as expenses go, yeah, just keep track of it at least once a week on a spreadsheet if you're smaller. I think that's an easy way to do it. It's a free way to do it. You're just paying for it with some of your time. And then, if you make a product order or whatever, you can go in right after you make the order and update your spreadsheet, and that's going to make it super easy for yourself. I would say the easier ways to do it is to either use QuickBooks or to hire someone out to do it for you, like a bookkeeper, which we have had. I think we've had like two different bookkeepers slash accountants on the show before, so definitely go check out those episodes to hear a little bit more about that. But with QuickBooks, you pay for the subscription and then it connects to your business bank account. Now, you're going to want to make sure you have a business bank account if that's the case, so that all of the transactions are running through that business bank account and then connecting into your QuickBooks, and you're able to have that all automatically flowing in and categorizing out on your QuickBooks. I think there's a little bit of a learning curve there because you have to go in and I can't remember what the exact term for it is. Reconcile. You have to be able to go in and reconcile all the transactions, make sure that everything is accounted for, nothing's doubled up, all of that kind of thing. So there is still some of your time, but it does, for the most part, most of it for you. Or there's also the option where you can hire a bookkeeper, which I feel like is very easy and probably the most efficient way to go about it if you can afford the expense, which with being a smaller business, you probably don't have a ton of transactions. So I'm paying, I think, a couple $100s a month for a bookkeeper. They keep track of all your expenses. They send a profit and, well, at least mine does. My accountant sends over a profit and loss sheet to me at the end of each month. So I know exactly what my numbers are, what I profited for the month, what my expenses were. And knowing those numbers is obviously a really important part of your business as far as if you want to grow or if you want to know how much money you're actually making, what your profit margin is. So yeah, that's really nice to have that all done for me. By the end of the month, I can just take a look at that and be able to make business decisions based on that as far as team growth goes. Okay, here's where we need to focus on for clients, yada, yada, yada. Now, I've not always had a team and I've not always had a bookkeeper who's done it for me. And I was solo for the most part. I feel like knowing your numbers is still really important when you are solo. So if you can somehow, do at least once a month with your bookkeeping, I think the biggest thing when you're solo and you're doing it yourself is staying consistent and keeping up on it. That's the best way to do it. No matter what you do, if you use QuickBooks, if you use a spreadsheet, if you do it by hand on a piece of paper, you figure out what works the best for you, but stay consistent with it and keep up on it because it is the biggest pain in the ass to try and go back through all of your bank statements and all your credit card statements and everything at the end of the year and try and figure it out right before tax time. You don't want to put yourself in that boat. You're really going to stress yourself out doing that. Ask me how I know that. I've done that. And it's kind of actually somewhat hilarious because I finally hired a bookkeeper so that I would not be stressing myself out trying to keep up on this anymore. And they've been doing mine. Now, my husband has opened his own small business, and I'm probably going to have to sit down and comb through all of his stuff at the end of the year and do it all for him. But anyway, I think really the best way is you've got to keep track of it. You've got to stay consistent on it. And what's going to make it easy is if anytime you're spending money for your business, you're keeping track of it, you're snapping pictures of those receipts. And whether that's you're keeping track of it in QuickBooks or in a spreadsheet, just keep up with it. Don't stress yourself out at the end of the year. Figure out a system that's going to work the best for you and make it work. There's a lot of different ways you can go about keeping track of your expenses. That's my experience with it. I felt like honestly it was very easy to keep up with it with just a simple spreadsheet when it was just me with my solo lash business. I had my system down. I did it once a week. It worked well. I didn't have issues. And when you're doing all your expenses, you definitely want to make sure you're just adding up all of the category totals. When I first started doing it, the first few years, I didn't realize that. And I was just giving them all of my transactions for the year, and they don't necessarily need that. They just need okay, here's how much I spent on continued education, here's how much I spent on booth rent, the totals for each different category. Here's how much I spent on marketing, here's how much I spent on credit card processing fees. So that was a rookie mistake that I made initially up front. Those are my insights. I'm not a bookkeeper and I'm not an accountant. So if you want specialized tax advice, make sure that you are going to your professional and asking them what is the best for you and your specific situation and your personal and business finances. Okay, next question. What's your biggest piece of advice for posting on socials for marketing and in general? This is such a broad question. I feel like it's kind of hard to narrow down, like, what's the best piece of advice? But I honestly believe, and I could say something like, stay consistent because that's important, or know your target audience because that's important. There's so many different things that are really important. But I think at the end of the day, what I'm going to say here is to be authentic to you and yourself. And when you do let yourself be seen and you are yourself and you are true to who you are going to feel a lot more confident in your brand and a lot more confident in showing up online because you're not trying to pretend to be someone that you're not. I feel like you run into much less imposter syndrome that way. And you're also going to attract like-minded people to you, whether that's other beauty professionals or potential clients. And I think that all is just a really important part of your social media strategy is just being true to you and being authentic. It's a lot more fun. It's a vibe. It's a whole thing. So that's my advice. Probably one of my biggest pieces of advice is don't be afraid to be you, even if that looks different than other people in your area, even if that looks different than other people online. That's truly what is going to bring your people together and what's going to create a community that you love on social media. My biggest piece of advice in general, now this, oh man, there's so many different things, like I was saying before, like so many different pieces of advice that I could give to you. But I think at the end of the day, we all know if you're a business owner, there are a lot of ups and downs, and there's a lot of hard things that you're going to go through. And I think just stick with it. You're going to have hard days. That's the story of my life. It's probably a story of all of our lives, right? We all have hard days. And there's going to be hard things that come up in your business, difficult clients, bad reviews, unhappy people, people trying to bring you down, or different situations with landlords. We all have these hard situations that we face, and I think you just got to stick with it. And even if you're having a hard time and you just don't know how this is going to work out, what's going to happen, if it's going to be okay, if you're going to be okay, if you're going to make it, if you're going to survive, if you're going to succeed. And I think at the end of the day, you just have to give yourself grace and you have to remember that tomorrow is a new day. Like I was having a really hard day, I think yesterday, and I just was like, oh my gosh, like super overwhelmed. I was like, this just doesn't feel like it's gonna get better. I feel so overwhelmed right now. I don't even know. And I just had to remind myself tomorrow is a new day. Let's sleep it out. And I felt a lot better this morning. And so I think sometimes you just have to remind yourself of that. Tomorrow is a new day. It's another chance to try again, and you're going to make it through, and it's going to be okay regardless of the outcome. You're going to be safe and you're going to find a way through, and it's all going to work itself out one way or another. And I also like to try and remind myself that like everything is working out for my good in the end, even if it's not what I want it to be or what I thought it would be in the present current moment. Okay, so we have just a couple more questions to get to. So, next question is how do you pick who your target audience is? Now, I think this really depends on the business and who you're trying to attract and like the level of clientele you're trying to attract. But I would really think about like who's your favorite client who has ever come in before? What are some attributes about them? Maybe what occupations do they have? What interests did they have? What age range are they in? And, think about that. And also take into consideration, what demographic is going to be able to afford the ongoing expense of your services? Like, what occupations would that be? And that's how you can really think about who do you want your target audience to be. For everyone's business, it's going to look a little bit different, especially those who are like-minded to us, who enjoy coming to us, who we enjoy having come in. So those are a few things that I would think about when you're trying to pick who your target audience is. And once you do know that, you want to use that to inform all the different pieces of your marketing and of your business. You can cater your client experience to them. You can speak directly to them in your content. So, for example, if you wanted to attract nurses, you could start creating content around how lash extensions are beneficial to nurses specifically. You could do the same thing with teachers, waitresses, different things like that. And you don't have to pick just like one specific type of person that can kind of, as far as like, oh, only this occupation or this profession, right? You can have multiple of those. Just remember that because if you speak to one type of person in your content, or you're speaking to these people who you want to be in your target audience, that doesn't mean that you're not going to attract other people outside of that, but it is going to help you bring in the people who are for you, who you want to be attracting into your business. So don't be afraid to niche down in your messaging on that. That's one thing I've had past students say is like, well, I don't want to just speak to that target audience because I just want anyone and everyone to come in for a service. But at the end of the day, when you think about it, do you really want anyone and everyone coming in? Because I don't think you want price shoppers. I don't think you want people who break your policies, who don't respect you, who show up late, who, all of the things above. So really think about who that target audience is and how you can cater your business, your experience, your marketing, your content, your brand messaging to them to attract them into your business specifically. So, next question, do you think collaborating with other businesses is a good idea? So, on this, absolutely yes. I would collaborate with, personally, like when I was doing services, I collaborated with a hairstylist, a microblader, photographer. I'm trying to think of what else, but those are the three that come to mind off the top of my head. We would cross promote each other, trade services, refer clients to each other. It really worked out well because we had similar target audiences who were interested in beauty services, who could afford the expense of them. Getting in front of each other's audiences, in front of each other's clienteles was really highly beneficial, whether we were posting each other on our Instagram stories or our Facebook's pages or sharing each other's posts, having lashes on them in a salon, not just in front of their own clients, but everyone else's clients and all the other hairstylists. That was highly beneficial. Collaborating with other beauty businesses in my building was super beneficial. We gave out business cards for each other, and we all had our business cards in the lobby so they could just take any of the ones that they were interested in. So yeah, I feel like collaborating in your local area with other businesses, even if they're not directly beauty business related, is a very good idea. So don't underestimate the power of networking and like growing, which kind of brings us into the next question that I saw was about networking. What types of networking would you do in person? You can go to Chamber of Commerce events. You can go to like Girls Night Out events, local business events. Like even if it's just like a get together for brunch or lunch, there's probably a lot more events in your area than you realize happening. And if there's not, you can always create those events. Do like put together like a brunch for business owners to get together and go to brunch together. So you can get people together, realtors, florists, bakers, boutiques, med spas, salons. There's so many different things you can do. Figure out who you can collaborate with, who you can invite to brunch or lunch, dinner, do some networking with. You open so many doors with that. I definitely think that's a beneficial way to grow your business outside of social media. That's been highly beneficial for myself. If you haven't listened to, I think I did like 1 or 2 podcast episodes about this in the last few months. Go check those out. You don't have to wait for someone else to put the events together to do it. You can put that together yourself, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. We did like a Lash Friendsgiving one year, and that was a lot of fun. And we just networked and had a blast. Okay, I'm going to answer one last question for today's episode, and that is, what do you think has been the biggest thing that has helped you grow your business? Now, there's a lot of things that have really helped me grow over the years, whether that's with the podcast, with educating, with a social media management agency, or with lash services. And I think the one thing, there's many things that I can contribute to growth, but I think the one thing for me that has helped me grow the most was focusing on marketing and growing my business with services that were reoccurring. So obviously with lash clients, this is easy because they're coming back every few weeks, but you really want to make that a good experience for them to keep them coming back. And focusing on repeat clients and a loyal clientele, no matter the business type, whether it's students, whether it's customers buying products from you, whether it's lash clients, any type of services. Even for me now with the social media management agency, that is absolutely something that has helped me grow the most, is to focus on building that loyal clientele, that repeat clientele who comes and has services with you again and again. It's so much easier to keep people coming back to you than it is to constantly be finding new people or trying to make new sales. That's what I would say has contributed to growth the most. If you really want to focus on growth and you really want to thrive and you really want to be successful this year, you've got to have the loyalty. You've got to have those repeat clients who are coming back to you again and again and again. That's going to create consistency, not just in your clientele, but consistency in your income. It's going to become reliable and dependable, and they're not going to want to go anywhere else for their services. So, yeah, that's my thought on that. And, this was a lot of fun to do a Q&A episode. I think I want to do one of these every few months or so. So think about what your questions are, send them in to me, and I'll answer them here on the show. I appreciate everyone who sent in a question on Instagram. You guys are the absolute freaking best. And if you aren't already subscribed, definitely hit subscribe wherever you listen to podcast at. That way you can get notified anytime a new episode goes live. We have new episodes coming out every single Tuesday. And if you found this helpful or any other past episode helpful, definitely share it with your lash friends, your beauty friends, your esthetician, hairstylist friends. That way we can share the love and continue to grow the show. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you so much. And I will see you again next week.